Can anybody hear me? So you guys can hear me, yes?
Yes, we can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you. I'm just going to try and pull my volume up a little bit more.
Hello.
Everyone can hear me?
I can
Excellent.
hear you.
So we're hearing ANA 22-260 for 243 Diorio Circle in Ancaster. We have the agent registered to speak and no other interested parties.
Is the agent available?
I am.
Did you have a chance to read the comments that were posted?
I did.
And I think planning was recommending a slight change.
And so I think it's just a matter of definition. I'm fully on board with the change. To summarize, the goal here is a 40 square meter addition with a covered patio. Some of our inquiries to the city regarding the definitions were a little difficult. So essentially, the 46% is with the covered patio. Only after we received those comments, we had spoke with the city earlier, which is why we included 46% lot coverage. Only recently did we receive those comments that it said, well, actually, we don't consider the covered porch part of it. So what you should be asking for is a 41% variance rather than the allotted 35%. So, and we're fully on board with that. I think that aligns with exactly what we're trying to do.
Okay, committee have any questions? Laverne?
If we've got an approval, thank you, Melvin. If we have an approval from the city for 46% and we're reducing it to 41%, I would make a motion to approve.
Okay, are there any other questions? Seeing none, I'll take that motion. Laverne, second. Nancy? All in favor?
Here, here.
Opposed?
Seeing none.
Motion carried, application approved.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
That's the only thing that's other than, we're now recording, so we're recording.
All right, we are all set for our next file. So we're hearing SCA 22269 for 219 Jones Road in Stony Creek. We have the owners registered to speak and no other interested parties.
Okay, is the owner available?
Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes. Did you have a chance to read the comments that were posted?
Yes, I did. And the only thing I see is the archaeological. If I find anything, I have to contact said peoples.
Committee have any questions?
I don't. Sorry.
Move and seconder? Margaret? All in favor?
Here, here.
Opposed?
Seeing none?
Motion carried, application approved.
Thank you.
All right, we are all set for the next file. So we're hearing FLB 2284 for 9-3 Concession 7 East in Flamborough. We have the agent registered to speak as well as the owner and no other interested parties.
Okay, is the agent available?
Yes, Andrew Bradshaw here.
Yes, did you have a chance to read the comments that were posted?
Yes, I did.
And do you have any questions?
Yes, there was a couple conditions that I just had some concerns with that I'd like to address. On page 5, they're under zoning. Number 2 was a requirement for me to have a variance for lot area to adhere to zoning compliance. And I think what they're getting at there is the fact that after this lot addition to my lot, it'll bring my lot to 0.25 hectares where the zoning bylaw requires 0.4. And I'm just wondering what the requirement would really be to get a variance for that when we can kind of do all that today. The proposal is bringing my lot larger and more towards compliance, and it's the largest possible addition that I can do. And I'm just wondering what benefit it really serves to get that variance. The other thing I had concerns with is item 5. It's a requirement for me to do basically a septic system locate for my property. My issue there is that we've already dealt with the building department, and we know that we have to replace the entire septic system with the building permit. And our lot size is only getting bigger, so we're not going to further encroach on those property boundaries.
So you're just adding a piece of land to your lot. You're not building anything on your house at present?
Not at present, but that is the plan in the future.
And I can understand your concerns with the septic system because you're not adding to the house, you're just adding more property to the house. And I would imagine that at some point, if you do add on to the house, that may be when the septic requirements come into play. But Margaret, you have a question?
Well, I don't want to speak for city staff, but there's a possibility that that condition is also required to make sure that the septic system for the property that the land is being taken from does not encroach on the land to be severed. So to confirm that their septic system will not be impacted by the severance. So not just the lands to be merged, but the lands to be severed.
Yeah, if I can just say something.
Go ahead.
On the first page there's another condition, the exact same condition, but for the owner's property, the subject land. So there is protections there in the conditions for me to do a septic system locate for the subject land property.
I don't think that the condition that you were reading originally that you had a concern about, I think that that is covered by that condition. So if you're okay with condition number 4 on the list, then I think that there wouldn't be an additional requirement for you.
Okay, that's what I was wondering, but on one of the conditions it says applicant and the other says owner, implying two different properties, I would assume.
They're looking for information on the severed and retained.
Okay. In that case, I don't have any issues with it if that's what they are concerned with. I did have one more item I wanted to talk about, if possible. Number 1 on that list is a condition by the committee itself for basically a surveyor's reference plan for the subject land property. I'm wondering what the purpose of that is, if it's necessary, because it is a almost 40-acre property and is quite expensive to survey. As to the recommendation of our surveyor, we've already done the reference plan for the applicant property, as well as the lands between both of our dwellings, and also about 200 feet to the rear of our property. So all the area surrounding the lands that are to be conveyed has been surveyed. I was wondering if there is an exemption that we don't need to do the entire subject land property.
So the requirement is on there for the lands that are going to be transferred. There is no mention of the entire subject lands in that condition. So it is the portion that is the subject of the application that is a reference plan is required, so that there is a legal definition to be able to be transferred.
Okay, that was my fault. I read that wrong, I guess. So in that case, I am happy with these conditions as they are written.
Okay. Nancy?
I'll make a motion as written, please, for approval.
Okay, seconder, Laverne?
Sorry.
All in favor? Oh, you have another question?
Sorry, the first thing I mentioned about item 2 there, the variance for the lot size, I was asking for that to be removed.
So the list of proposed conditions is on the front page of the report, and it says consolidated report. And so those are the 5 conditions that are before, or sorry, 6 conditions that are before the committee.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, we'll take Nancy as the mover and Laverne seconded. All in favor? Opposed?
Here, here.
I think Mark was just a bit late. I don't think he's opposed.
Yeah, I said here, here.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, motion carried, application approved.
Thank you very much.
We're all set for the next file, so we are hearing FLA 22271 for 1044 Garden Lane in Flamborough. We have the agent registered to speak and the owner registered to speak and no other interested parties. I would like to note for the committee's information that there was a condition that was recommended by Conservation Halton that was not listed on the consolidated report.
Okay, is the owner available?
Yes, that's me, Zahira Khalid.
Yes, did you have a chance to read the comments that were posted?
Yes, and I did read the condition, and I do have a no objection letter from Conservation Halton when I had submitted the building permit. Is there anything additional that I would have to submit?
What was the question?
The no objection letter was for the condition, and she just wanted to know if there was anything additional she would need to see.
No, there is not.
No, then I think, and I already have the site plan letter as well, so there's no other questions.
Okay, does the committee have any questions?
Move it for approval.
Moved by Nancy, seconded by Mal. All in favor?
Here, here.
Opposed?
Seeing none?
Motion carried, application approved.
Thank you.
And sorry, for the record, was that with the conditions or without the conditions? With the conditions? Okay. Thank you. All right, we're all set for the next file. We're hearing FLA 22272 for 7 Savona Crescent in Flamborough. We have the owners registered to speak and no other interested party.
Okay, is the owner available?
I am here. Good afternoon.
You'll just need to speak a little bit closer to your microphone. It's a bit difficult to hear you.
Sorry, I am here. Good afternoon.
Okay, did you have a chance to read the comments that were posted?
I did.
And do you have any questions?
No, one is resolved. The other one is just pending this outcome. One note I do have, I did call the city this week. Notice a public hearing document in the mail as a diagram depicting the lot.
Sorry, I think you're moving your microphone or you're speaking away from your microphone or moving your head because we couldn't hear the second half of your statement.
Okay, I received a notice of hearing in the mail, and it's showing the wrong lot depicted on the diagram in that document. And I called the city this week, and he said to bring it up at this meeting. The address is correct on the document, but the lot that's shaded in is, I believe, 17 Savona, not 7.
Okay, I know on our information it's number 7.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Committee have any questions? Val?
I'll just move it.
Seconded by Laverne. All in favor?
Here, here.
Opposed?
Seeing none?
Motion carried, application approved.
Thank you.
All right, we're all set for the next file. So we are hearing GLA FLA 22266 for 1885, Concession 8 West in Flamborough. We have the owners registered to speak and no other interested parties. I believe the owners are calling in, so you'll just need to press *6 or *9 to unmute yourself.
Okay, is
Hello,
the
it's
owner
Doug
there?
Fairchild. Can you hear me?
Yes. Did you have a chance to read
Okay.
the comments that were posted?
I did. Thanks very much. I really just wanted to be on the line in case there's any questions for my application. I see it's recommended to be approved. If there was any questions, I'm happy to answer. But thanks to the committee and City of Hamilton for allowing the opportunity to listen in today. So thank you.
Okay, does the committee have any questions?
Motion for approval, if no questions?
Nancy moved, seconded Tom. All in favor?
Here, here.
Opposed?
Seeing none?
Motion carried, application approved.
Thank you very much.
All right, we are all set for the next file. So we are hearing GLA 22261 for 2575 Regional Road 56. We have the agent registered to speak and no other interested parties. So if you want to just come to one of the microphones there, and then when you're speaking, you'll just need to make sure that you're unmuted. There's a arrow where the button is.
Okay, is the agent available?
Hi there.
Yes, did you have a chance to read the comments that were posted?
I just walked in here right this minute, my friend. So basically, I understand there was an issue with the project being a little the big side. We came in and we discussed with somebody in the zoning yesterday how to shrink the project down to the appropriate size. I had the architect work on this immediately. We had these done right away yesterday and submitted this morning, and she was happy with what she's seen. And now we're having this brought to you guys. Hopefully we can carry on with the project for the family.
Okay, so we don't have any information in front of us today of the changes. I don't know whether anyone from planning can comment.
Yeah, so Morgan Gowans is available from planning.
I have a question first.
Good afternoon, everyone. Morgan Gowans from Development Planning. Yes, I've had a conversation with the applicant, and they've reduced the size of the garage as well as that side yard setback, and staff are able to support the application with these reduced sizes and setbacks.
Okay.
Sorry, could you just state your name for the record?
Oh, I apologize.
Thank you.
The Contracting Limited.
Okay, thank you.
Tom?
I'm a little confused with the planning people. What are they saying as far as the gross floor area goes now?
Can you repeat?
Through the chair. Yes, through the chair, Morgan from Development Planning. So the gross floor area has now been reduced to be 95 square meters. So it'll be instead of the 122 square meters that it was originally. And then the side yard setback is now going to be 4.45 meters.
And percentage-wise, what is that?
Percentage-wise, it would be 100% of the existing building's gross floor area rather than the 10%.
Sorry, could you state the amendment to variance 2? I wasn't able to get it. Oh.
Yes, so the new proposed side yard setback will now be 4.45 meters.
Is that still a doubling of the floor area? Oh, sorry. Is that still a doubling of the floor area?
Yes, so they still need the variance for the floor area.
It's a little unusual, isn't it, to come in to asking to double the size of the house?
This is just to make it a attached garage. So on the site existing, there is a detached garage. And they're looking to make it an attached garage, which they're counting as an addition.
I'm not understanding. They're going to do away with the attached garage?
That's correct. We have the permits pulled for the demolition, and it will be removed and destroyed.
But I understand that even then, it's 100% increase. Is that right?
Sorry, is that to planning staff or is that to the applicant?
Well, whoever wants to answer. All right, let's put it to the planner. Is it 100% increase?
That's correct, yes.
And the bylaw says there's not exceed a maximum of 10%. Right? Is that where we are?
That's correct, yes.
And you're approving that?
Yeah, staff felt that as though it was in keeping with the existing use of the single detached home.
I'm having trouble hearing.
Sorry, through the chair, staff felt that it was in keeping with the bylaw and it's not future entrenching the existing use of the single detached dwelling. The main intent of this 10% increase is so that the existing use of the single detached dwelling doesn't disturb affect the future use of it to become a commercial property, and staff feel that this attached garage doesn't do that. So.
Well,
so I think, Tom, because of the zoning in this area is what the catch is, and which is allowing them only to have 10%. There's a lot there. These lots are very wide and deep along this stretch, and there are some houses that are single story, but quite a bit bigger than what's at this proposal. So
I see. Okay. I just trying to get a handle. It's the 100% increase that kind of boggles my mind.
Well, and I think because the zoning in that area, I think is what holds down to the 10%.
Is there any zoning anywhere that lets you double the size of a house?
Well, it's a C5A zone, so I'm guessing that because of that zone along that corridor, they're only allowed to have a 10%.
I understand that.
But because these lots are the size they are, I may be putting words into planning's mouth right now, but they're allowing it because of the size of the lots that are there. Margaret? Okay, Laverne?
I think what the confusion here, what's creating all the confusion, is the 10%. So let's back up. And let's suppose there was no garage there at all, and it was a flat piece of ground. It would be 10% of nothing. So it'd be nothing. So then he's only asking to put up a garage. And so what planning has done, planning has taken a look at this and found a way, with the changes that are being made to this variance, to find an approval. And I kind of welcome the approval, because I see nothing wrong with it now. I saw nothing wrong with it before, because 10% of nothing is nothing if there was no garage at all. So what they're saying is if you have a 20 by 20 garage there, you can put 10% on it. Doesn't make any sense, because if there was no garage at all, you could build a big building there. So I don't have a problem with it. And if there's a problem and we have to further look into this thing, and the applicant and his representation need more time to make sure things are looked after properly here, I believe that this thing should be tabled. But as of right now, I don't think we need to table it if planning is saying they are approving it.
Okay, Margaret, then Dave.
I had, and I could be wrong on this, but I had assumed that the 10% was 10% of the dwelling size, which did not include the garage. So once the garage is, the detached garage is demolished and a new attached garage and I guess like little breezeway or addition is included, it brings that the size to greater than the 10%. So I think the way I was looking at it, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, with the removal of the garage, would they have sort of be allowed that as of right? Not really as of right, but just you're taking that into account when you're approving the 100% increase to staff. Morgan. Is it because the detached garage is being removed and replaced?
Not attached.
detached?
Yes, so as the property stands right now, there is a detached garage, but since this garage is now proposed to be attached, it is being looked at as part of the house, so it is being looked at as part of the gross floor area.
David?
Yeah, I was up there this morning and I thought it was an excellent opportunity to have growth in the area. So I'm going to I'd have to agree with everybody here, and I'm going to make a motion for approval with the new amended
Second,
size.
or you have a question?
No, I'll second it.
Okay, seconded by Mel. All in favor?
Here, here.
Opposed?
Seeing none?
Motion carried, application approved.
And just for the record, so that was variance 1 is amended for 95 square meters or 100% of the gross floor area, and variance 2 is amended to be a 4.45 meters southerly side yard setback as opposed to as previously. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. It's for a beautiful family. This is a build for a cancer patient who lost his life, so this is a memorial to him, and now you give me the opportunity to go do something beautiful for a very beautiful family. Thank you very much, everybody here today.
Okay, and we are all set for the next file. So we did have 2 files. They're related applications, but they are on separate properties. We are caught up to the second application, so if the committee wants, we could hear them together or we can hear them separately.
Let's hear them separately.
Hear them separately? Okay. So we will hear FLB 2282 for 1738 Highway 5. In Flamborough, we have the agent registered to speak and no other interested parties.
Okay, is the agent available?
Hey, Mr. Chairman, Steve Fraser, AJ Clark and Associates.
Yes. Did you have a chance to read the comments that were posted?
I did, and I know we're hearing these separately, but I'll just give a little explanation of what's happening here. For 1738, there is a sliver of that property's driveway that traverses the neighboring property at 1742. And so both neighbors have agreed to exchange lands of the exact same amount to facilitate 1738 to have its driveway entirely on their property. I have no issues with the conditions and comments in both applications. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so on the first application, any questions from the committee?
None. Move for approval.
Moved by Nancy, seconded by Tom. All in favor?
Here, here.
Opposed?
Seeing none?
Seeing none, motion carried, application approved.
Okay, and we are all set for the next file. So we are hearing FLB 2283 for 1742 Highway 5 in Flamborough. We have the agent registered to speak and no other interested parties.
Okay, again, is the agent available?
Steve Fraser, AJ Clark and Associates. Thank you.
Yep. And on this application, committee have any questions?
Same, move it, please.
Second.
Okay, moved by Nancy, seconded by Mel. All in favor?
Here, here.
Opposed?
Seeing none?
Motion carried, application approved.
Okay, we are all set for the next file. We are hearing HMB 2285 for 86 Sherman Avenue South. We have the agent registered to speak and 2 interested parties.
Okay, is the agent available?
Steve Fraser, AJ Clark and Associates. I've had no issues with staff's comments or the conditions imposed, but I'm happy to answer any questions of the committee or members of the public.
Okay. Introduce yourselves.
Ron Harrison, Noreen Harrison. We reside at 98 Sherman Avenue South, just the property to the south of this property, 86 Sherman Avenue. And I guess our concern is currently this area is zoned District D, allowing for 1 and 2 dwellings, and that if this severance is allowed to go through, that potentially it would allow for each individual unit to have 2 units, so we'd be essentially living with 4 units beside us.
So I'm seeing the zone, it's zone D in this area?
Yeah.
And so 1 and 2 family dwellings are permitted?
Correct. So the concern being if this land severance would allow, it would be my understanding anyways, that become 2 separate lots. Now both of them zoned D, allowing for 1 and 2 dwelling per. Is that how, am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have, you know, there's a lot of traffic in the area. There's a lot of parking's always an issue. It's very dangerous getting in and out of our street. We have an apartment building to the left. We have daycare to the right. And now to the north, they potentially would have the opportunity to turn these into, I don't know if that's the intent of the developer. The developer to date's been very great, but we're just trying to protect us from having 16 people potentially living next to us. And we're also wondering about, is there any setback requirements between, I don't know what happens when you sever a property that has a semi-detached. Is there minimum requirements that are, I know typically it's like 1.2 meters because they built they maxed out the property, total square footage allowable. So what we used to have 12 feet between our property line and their house, we now only have about 3 feet. So we're just concerned with about, you know, what would potentially
Steve,
happen.
any comments on, I know that's not in front of us. We have no minor variances, you know, for front or side yard.
Yeah, through the chair, the semi-detached dwelling is substantially complete in its construction. So in order to get a building permit, it would have been zoning compliant. Any variances to the zoning bylaw as a result of what's being constructed on the property. To answer the one member's question, my understanding, can't confirm this today, but my understanding is the intent is just to have a semi-detached dwelling on the site.
Which is currently what it is, so I'm just confused as to why you go through the exercise to do the severance. What is the benefit? They can what, sorry?
Through the chair.
They could sell one, right, but could they not sell one as it currently stands? Sorry.
No, you cannot sell or convey one unit separately from another unit unless it's a separate piece of property. That's the intent of this application solely, is just to create 2 parcels that can be conveyed or sold independently of one another.
Okay, David?
One deed.
Yeah, I think at that time, most people will just do it and sell it, but if they do come back to try and get a 2-family, there'll probably be variances involved there too, and you'll have an opportunity to speak there. And I think at that stage, you can come and raise your opposition to that. Right now, it's a little premature to assume that more houses and more families are going to go there until it actually does happen. Then you'll have your opportunity.
But I understand that, but at that time, like if this passes, we're now into each lot is a D, right? So automatically they're allowed to do that. So I don't think I really have after this point, I really don't believe we would have a leg to stand on because they're well within their means to do 2 dwellings within each lot.
No, you're not saying we don't know the outlay of the property and there could be additional variances which could bring them back to this committee, which could, you'll have that opportunity because there are, you know, going to be certain restrictions allowed and certain things allowed to, that you
Nancy?
have to comply.
Yeah, just to add to that, the semi-detached dwelling is also permitted to have a secondary dwelling unit, even if it were a separate unit. That's just a new change to the bylaw this year.
Really? Mm-hmm. So as it currently stands, they can have 4.
Mm-hmm. In fact, they could have 5. Or sorry, they could have a basement and a separate unit in the backyard.
Sweet.
I know.
Tom, you had a question?
Yeah.
I think it might be answered. I think it might be answered. The question was if the severance goes ahead, you've created 2 separate units. Now, if they want to make one of those units a 2-family unit, do they have to come back, or they can just go ahead and convert it?
It depends if they do it as a second unit in the basement. I'm not sure whether, or backyard. I'm not sure, but that's not in front of us today. Right. So we can only deal with what's in front of us, and that's splitting this so that, if I hear right, Mr. Fraser, it gives the opportunity that the 1/2 can be sold if the severance is granted, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Well, yes, and if it's sold, can it be converted to a 2-family dwelling? I mean, 2 families are allowed now. That's so potentially you could have 2 units with 2 families in each unit. That's the concern. Is that correct? I'm asking the planner.
Sorry, planning staff or the applicant?
Planning staff.
Planning staff?
Through the chair, what was the question? Or
I believe the question was, would they be able to construct additional dwelling units as in the form of secondary attached or secondary detached dwelling units if the consent was approved or if the consent was not approved?
through the chair, yes, the bylaw allows secondary dwelling units, whether it's on the existing lot as is, or if the severance goes through, then they would be allowed on each individual lot. But they are permitted. But again, the application before us today is just for a severance, so that's all planning staff looked at. But to answer your question, yes, they would be allowed to have SDUs on each lot.
Then, if they want to put 2 families in each unit, do they have to come back for that, or can that happen without any further consent?
If the applicant can construct the building with no need for variances and to the zoning bylaw, then they would not need to come back to the committee.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I may add to that.
Go ahead.
Right, but that, in theory, that applies to every severance across the city now, whether you're creating a semi-detached dwelling or you're creating 2 single detached lots. That is an available, allowable permission under the zoning bylaw. So to Bear's point, that's not what's in front of you. What's in front of you is the subdivision of the property into 2 parcels.
Right. Okay, Nancy.
Motion for approval.
Seconder?
Seconded.
Mark? All in favor? Opposed? 1 opposed?
I have 1 opposed.
Motion carried, application approved.
We've battled this property now for years. And every variance.
Okay, and we are all set for the next file. So we are hearing HMB 2280 for 24 Kinraid Avenue in Hamilton. We have the agent registered to speak and no other interested parties.
Okay, is the agent available?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Ellen Paffany of Davis Webb.
Yes, did you read the comments that were posted?
I did, Mr. Chairman, and I am in agreement with the proposed conditions.
Okay, committee, have any questions?
Move
Pretty
it.
straightforward. Mel, move it. Moved, seconded by Nancy. Mark?
Sure.
Seconded by Mark. All in favor? Opposed?
Seeing none?
Motion carried, application approved.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Times two.
And we're also on the wrong file. Okay, and then we're all set for HMB 2281 for 26 Kinrad Avenue in Hamilton. Again, we have the agent registered to speak and no other interested parties.
Okay, is the agent available?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Ellen Peffany of Davis Webb.
Same, let it be approved.
Motion made by Nancy, seconded by Mark.
Yes.
All in favor? Opposed?
Seeing none?
Motion carried, application approved.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
And we do have a break currently scheduled, so we will resume at 2:20 for the next file. All right, and we are all set for the next files. 5, yes, okay. So we are hearing HMB 2286 and HMA 22270. We have the agent registered to speak and several interested parties.
Okay, is the agent available?
Yes, I'm right here, sir.
Yes, did you have a chance to read all the comments posted?
I have read the comments, yes.
Okay, so do you have any questions?
I don't have questions. We do have some comments that we would like to make in a brief presentation. That's not really a presentation, but some speaking points. If I have time to do that, I'd like to go through that.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, very good. So thanks very much to the chair, members of the committee, and certainly the stakeholders that are participating in this meeting. So my name is Mike Crow. I'm a planner with IBI Group, and I'm here with my clients, the property owners, and I also have the building designer with us as well in case there's any questions for them. So really we're here with our request to the committee, which is to approve the applications that are before you as they're identified. That includes all of the variances identified by zoning staff. So we'll note in the comments that there's some comments from planning staff that a couple of variances they don't feel are required and a few that aren't supported, but we're asking the committee to approve all the variances as you have in the notice that's before you. And that would also include the consent as well as it's been applied for. We have one very minor request for the conditions, and that'll be condition 9 for the consent and really the only condition for the variance application. And our request would be that rather than have the requirement to perform the archaeological study, that we just attach the standard note to the decision. So I think that really just means deleting the first paragraph and adding the second paragraph in both cases. So really that's what we're here to speak to. You might have seen that just before the deadline we made a slightly revised submission to get on the agenda. So we tried to address a couple of the variances that were identified in case there were points of contention. So one of them was widening the driveway access to 2.8 meters instead of 2.7. We can accommodate that. Noting that planning staff support that variance and it's truly a minor variance, we prefer that it gets approved, but certainly we could accommodate that design as well. And the other one was the front porch. The variance is for 1.49 meters instead of 1.5, so we submitted a plan to show that we can meet that design requirement, but certainly would prefer if the variance was approved as outlined. A couple other things that we noted that there were some notes from zoning staff in terms of potential issues, and I don't think the committee is necessarily concerned with those, but just for clarity, there's no issue with dwelling height, number of stories, or height in meters for the main dwelling. We do comply. We're at about 9.6 meters total height, and it's just a 2-story dwelling. We have a cellar and not a basement. The SDU dwelling height is 6 meters. We've designed it to be 6 meters and to be compliant, so we don't require variance for that. And just to clarify that it is actually a cellar under the zoning bylaw definition for the main dwelling and not a basement, which means it's more than half below grade, so it's about 2/3 below grade and 1/3 above grade. Rear yard amenity space, there was a comment that we didn't provide delineation of the 12 square meters, so on the drawings that we've added to the agenda, we've identified that in the rear yard we have 36 square meters, so we obviously exceed that requirement. And the size of the secondary dwelling unit ground floor to the main dwelling, that was identified by zoning staff is unable to determine compliance. And so we've added that detail, and really the true definition of ground floor, we're talking about 17% relationship of the SDU to the main dwelling. If we were to take the worst case scenario, which was the entire carport SDU footprint, we're still at only about 60%. So we're nowhere near the 75% concern. And then the balcony, this balcony that's on the rear of the SDU, which we didn't identify as a balcony originally. So we've added some dimensions to that, and just for committee's clarification, it projects from the SDU less than a foot, 0.21 meters, which is 0.65 feet. And it's not actually accessible as a balcony, it's really a design aesthetic feature. So that's really it for clarification. We think we put forward a great application. We put a lot of thought into this before we came to the committee. We worked on different iterations of the dwelling design for the main dwellings, looked at whether it could be a single versus semi. We worked with an engineer, MTE, who did a preliminary lot grading and servicing strategy. They also discussed that with city staff before we submitted our application. And so we've got an ability to say with confidence that we can service and grade the dwellings to meet city requirements. And certainly we're looking to meet the city's own objectives for intensification and infill that's contextually appropriate, providing these SDUs in the right location where they can be accommodated, providing ample parking, amenity space, and really providing quality dwelling unit design. So all the variances that are before you are actually, we think, are desirable, because not only do they allow the development in plan view to be situated and designed properly, but they also allow for appropriate internal dwelling designs, which includes the SDU. We have a very great, efficient layout, and those variances facilitate that. So with that, that's my submission. Be happy to answer any questions. And if there are comments from residents, perhaps we have an opportunity to address those in follow-up questions or comments if need be as well.
Okay, there are some residents.
Yes, so there are interested parties. For clarity, the people who are attending in person, are they all with the agent, or are they interested parties who wish to speak separately?
Not everyone's with us. She's next issue. She's in the next one.
Yeah? Okay. All right, so then we will hear from Marshall Beck.
Yes, hello. First, I want to thank the committee for this opportunity. I just wanted to share some concerns we have as immediate next door neighbors to the property in question. Perhaps predictably, we do feel the plan is out of sync with the general character of the neighborhood. It's excessive in scale. The density is inappropriate and will fill the lot with structures and leave very little green space. The plan would impact us a great deal directly. It will virtually block us in with walls the length of the yard. I'm sure it will have privacy implications and likely issues around noise. I have no doubt it will affect our property value negatively, so it may be lucrative for the owner. These plants may be lucrative for him, but it will come at our expense. We feel there's room enough to increase the density, which I understand the need for, and to make money as well, without pushing the limits further with these variations requested. Ideally, we'd like to see the plan scaled back. Just the semi-detached structure proposed without the SDUs would increase the density fourfold on the property and allow for appropriate front and backyard green space and lessen the impact on neighbors like myself. Finally, I'd just like to add that our 140-year-old home was built on the property line. So we have some degree of concern around possible structural damage to our foundation from construction. And I don't know if this is possible, but we'd like to ask that a condition be placed on any final plans for development that appropriate engineering and soil tests be conducted to assess this risk and that mitigation measures be taken as needed. And that's my spiel. So thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and then we also have Catherine Meyer-Beck registered to speak. I do not currently see them on the line, so I will move on to the next person. So we are now hearing from Carson and Brooke Taylor.
Hi, everyone. My name is Brooke, and my husband is beside me, Carson. We are the neighbors directly in the backyard. So we do have some concerns with the building plans to put 2 single-family dwelling units directly behind us. We have a young family, 2 little girls, and we feel as though, we would lose the privacy of our yard to enjoy the space as a family back there with 2 homes looking right into us. So we hope that you will consider these concerns that us as neighbors have in this neighborhood. We know that the need for, increasing the density is there, and the large structures on Dundurn and Aberdeen. It's a very different type of setting as opposed to these side streets. So those are our concerns as far as privacy and enjoyment of the property that we are proud to currently own at this time.
Yeah, and I agree with Brooke, and I agree with.
Sorry, it is, oh, sorry, never mind. I apologize. I didn't realize you were together. Sorry.
That's okay. It's Carson Taylor here speaking. I agree with Marshall that, it's really the semi-detached at the back that are sort of one of our major concerns. And again, it's the idea of sort of scaling back these plans. Again, we know that change is inevitable. We know that something's going to go on this property, but is there a way to scale back this and again, not have find a balance between everyone. Keep something that's consistent with the neighborhood, still increase density from a small farmhouse type dwelling on this property, and still keep all parties happy. So that's our opinion here. And one point too, I just this can be a question for later, but I do have a concern with water. As it is right now, our backyard does get quite wet. I think part of it's the concrete alley. I think part of it is the large parking lot behind the Dundurn apartment buildings there. And I'm just worried that if more and more, concrete and non-permeable surfaces are added to the neighborhood, how is that going to affect water, rainwater, things like that? So those are some of my concerns. Thanks.
Thank you. And I believe Catherine Meyer-Beck is on the call now.
I am, thank you.
Did you have comments that you wish to provide?
Thank you. I do have concerns being the neighbor adjacent to the property with the level of, I would say, overbuild that's proposed on the land. The street itself has been losing significant tree cover over the course of the last couple of years, and I know that's not necessarily within the prescribed bylaws per se, but I am concerned about just, as our neighbors have said, just the development proposed, the density of the development and the lack of green space and tree coverage. And it's really changing our experience of our home and our experience of the neighborhood. And I would, but I'm also appreciative of the fact that the developer has tried to work within variances, within the bylaws where they can. But, I am in support of following the bylaws to ensure, that issues like drainage and, fire and stability are all ensured. So those are my main concerns today.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Chairman, that is the last of the interested parties registered to speak.
Okay. Committee, questions? Thomas.
I'm surprised that we don't have input from engineering here. We're going to have, I think later on, there's another one where the planning people recommend approval of a project and engineering are concerned with drainage and recommend, in fact, denial. So there's a dichotomy there. This seems to me to be potentially that situation. Seems to me the lot is being overbuilt. I have one question. When you have separate development units like that, is there not concern for amenity space for the units? I don't know if there's someone from planning can answer that, because there seems to be very limited amenity space for the houses and virtually none for the units. It just seems to me that this is the coverage in this project is just excessive. Can planning tell me about the amenities for SDUs, separate SDUs? Is there a need for amenity space for them?
So a question to planning?
Yeah.
Through the chair to the committee. I don't have the bylaw memorized off the top of my head, but if there were to be amenity space that the applicant couldn't conform to, it would be flagged as a variance. And planning staff can only speak to the variances at hand. So we wouldn't be dealing with any amenity space for the SDU.
So right now, we don't know whether there's a problem with amenity or not.
For the chair, if there was a variance that was needed for the SDU amenity space, it would more than likely have been flagged. So I don't see there being an issue in terms of the bylaw or what the applicant would need to provide moving forward with this application.
If I may, sorry, as the applicant, am I able to chime in as well, because I do have the answer? So for the SDU, the bylaw requirement is 12 meters squared for the unit in the rear yard. And we provided in our drawings, we have 36 square meters, but that's just the green space alone. We also have the deck space, which is also considered amenity space. So that the requirement is actually 12 square meters of green space, which is unobstructed lawn, which may have a walkway or permeable pavers or whatever. So we exceed that, but we also then have the deck space, which is for each of these semi-detached dwellings as well. So those are also about 12, 14 square meters. So we have about 48, 50 square meters just solely of rear yard amenity space amongst the 3 units, which exceeds the minimum requirements.
But that's amenity space for the houses, is it not, as opposed to the SDUs?
It's for both, sir. So the SDUs is at 12 meters squared per unit, essentially. So on each side, on each lot, we'll have 36 square meters at least of rear yard green space plus all the side and front yard green space. So there's no variances for any of those. And then we have the deck space, which isn't obviously green space, but it's purposeful amenity space for the main dwelling. So that's another 12 square meters. So we're about 50 square meters total of just rear yard amenity space, as opposed to the 12 meters for just the SDUs. So, I mean, a way to put it would be each SDU, if you said each SDU needed 12 square meters, that's 24 total. We have 36 plus the deck space on each lot. So we're well in excess of the minimum requirements.
Just so I understand, the total amenity space required for both the house and the SDU is how much?
So through the chair, sorry. So there's nothing for the single detached. There's no rear yard amenity space requirement for the semi-detached units. It's just for the SDUs. Okay, and the requirement, I mean, I'm just saying it as it's written, is 12 square meters per unit, or per unit, right? Of rear yard amenity space only.
So then the only amenity space for the houses is a patio, is that it?
No, so through the chair, so these are rental units, and the idea is that the amenity space in a way would be shared. That's the way the SDU provisions are written, right? Because you're not condominiumizing the units and the outdoor amenity space. Everything has to be shared. So the bylaw provisions for the SDUs is just intended to ensure there's a minimum amount of green space for that sharing, right? So even though it says per SDU unit, it's going to be shared space no matter what, right? And so that's the 12 square meter requirement, and that's per unit. So each lot that we are proposing has 36 square meters only of green space. So if, maybe I could go about it another way. Just bear with me here.
I'm still concerned about the drainage issue and the coverage of the lot.
Yeah, so I can address that too. So this is just a...
Sorry, could you refer to where in the comments package it is?
It's in the agenda. I don't know what page. So it's the material we provided. I don't have the agenda.
Okay, just a minute and let me find it so that those interested.
Yeah.
So it would be page 119 of 213 in the comments package that's posted online.
Yeah. So we submitted this as a visual aid just to show the relationship between the built form footprint, right? The green space, which would include all the side and front yard areas, and then the porches and the decks. So the intent was to try to address what you're raising, sir, in terms of the amenity space, but then also the ability to do the grading and drainage, okay? So on this drawing, these rectangles on each side that I'm just kind of highlighting with my hand here are at least 36 square meters. Okay, so that's just pure rear yard, open space for grassed area, landscaping. And then the brown area, each one of those is a deck on top of the cellar, and those are at least 12 square meters. I think I did a rough calculation. They're just over 12, so let's say 12 square meters. So in total, that's at least 48 square meters of space in their rear yard that is either pure landscape or amenity, okay? And that does not require a variance. That meets the bylaw requirements. We provided the right space. It's on the drawings. There's no issue with that. That space is always going to be shared because these units are rental. So regardless of whether it's the SDU, the detached SDU tenant, the interior SDU tenant, or the main dwelling tenant, that's free and clear space. That's their amenity space. In terms of landscaping area, we don't require any variances to landscaping area, right? We haven't identified any deficiencies there, so the front and side yard areas are sufficient. The grading and drainage that goes with that, so we've submitted with our application a brief from MTE, which is a consulting engineer retained to help us determine, is it feasible to service and grade these lots? And it is, right? So ultimately, that's why we have slightly wider side yard setbacks for the semi-detached than the bylaw minimum, because we're going to accommodate our grading and drainage through those swales out to the street. There might be other measures required in terms of dealing with on-site drainage, like a pit or other swale locations. The end result is, before you, in the consent decision, is a condition from engineering to deal with the consent agreement, right? We have to enter into a consent agreement as a condition of land division, and that agreement will then require us to prepare the finalized grading and servicing plans, which have to meet the city's requirements. So we'll have to go through that process and prepare the detailed lot grading and servicing plans to get the engineering approval, then to get our final consent. So we're accepting that condition, knowing that we haven't done all of that design work yet because it's too early, but we will do that as a condition of consent. So ultimately, the amenity space exceeds the minimum requirement and there's no variance. We've informed our design from an MTE support strategy that shows that we can do the grading and drainage. We also consulted with city staff on that before we applied, and we are going to accept the condition, if approved, the consent agreement, which is going to require us to go through that detailed exercise, which will then finalize the grading and drainage and servicing strategy. So there would be no impacts that way. It will all work within this general layout because we've already developed it with that.
Just to use one story.
Yeah. So if I may just make one comment, that of all the minor variances, or all the variances that we have in front of us, there's 2 that are not required, 11 and 12, is that right? And then
11 and 13.
or 12 and 13?
11 and 13 were listed in the comment package as not required. Planning staff recommended approval of 1 to 8, and I believe it should have been 12, not 10, and then they recommended denial of variance 9 and 10.
Right. So the negative comments from planning, of course, on 9 and 10 is the setback from the SDU, from the street, or from the alleyway, right? And then the space between the 2 SDUs. And I guess the only question would be, you know, if someone wanted to put a fence up between the 2 SDUs, now you cut that space down. If there's no fence, you have, what is it? 1 foot, 11 inches from each one to the lot line, which if it stays open, there's enough space. But if someone decides to put a fence up, it makes it pretty difficult.
So through you, Chair, I don't think that will ever be the case. The way that the SDUs are structured is that that's actually mostly parking space, right? So it's a carport, and there's really no reason to have a fence or any delineation there. It's really just the back of each SDU, which is 17.5 square meters at grade, which is really an access point. So that space in between, again, we were very careful about that because we want to make sure that we had enough space to deal with grading and drainage there too, right? It's very important, and that's the strategy. So we always accommodate the 1.2 meters total between the 2, like building face to building face, at the absolute minimum pinch point, which is where the the SDU structure is. In between, it's really just carport space, and I think that there's no windows, there's no privacy issues. It's really just building wall to building wall. So I think a fence would be really redundant and probably a waste of money, I would think. But yeah.
Well, also, I mean, the bonus is you're allowing or you're building into this two parking spots, whereas we know in the past that there's no parking required for SDUs. So that's a bonus. I'll go with Nancy first and then Dave.
Okay, thanks. Thank you. I first looked at it and I was a little concerned. After you presented it a little more and I actually paid attention to it, same thing, I recognized right away, that is an access for the carports. If you go down that alleyway, there's a lot of garages that are right to the edge of the property line, and you literally have, I think it's maybe a foot in front of the garage to access and do the turnabout there. So with all of that stuff, and you did address the drainage, which was my other concern in number 9, I think it was. So thank you for that, and I am prepared to support.
David?
I got a question first.
Sorry.
Question before I comment. Are you okay with number 9 on the conditions on the archaeological?
No.
No? That was one? You said no, right?
Through the chair, no, that's the one we were hoping to modify.
Okay,
yeah.
so going to, you know what, these two variances, number 9 and 10, to me are pretty minor, 0.6 to 1.2, 0.88 to 1.2. And we've got to accept one thing here, and we've got to accept it, is that this is citywide SDUs, and it's happening and it's moving forward, and so I'm here to support that. So I'm going to make a motion with approval, striking number 9 on the conditions.
10?
No, the archaeological thing on the conditions, but
10, 9, and 10.
9 and 10. 10. Where's 10?
Sorry, okay, so the motion was for approval of the consent and the variances. The consent with condition 9 removed or changed to a note?
To a note, changed to a note.
Okay, and then the variances were, your motion is that they're approved as written on the notice that was circulated. Okay, thank you.
And I will second it.
Motion made and seconded. David and Nancy, all in favor?
Here.
Opposed?
1 opposed.
Motion carried, application approved.
May I ask a point of clarification just real quick? Because that condition was attached to the variance as well, so would that be stricken from the variance decision as well? I think the archaeological condition is on both. I'm not sure if I read that incorrectly, but a note. Yes, there should be a note for both.
On both.
Oh, yes, okay, yeah, I'll make a note of that.
Thank you very much for your time. That was great, thank you.
Sky, did you hear it? They're all going against him.
Yeah.
Right, and we are all set for the next file. So we are hearing HMA 22154 for 39 Florence Street in Hamilton. We have the agent registered to speak and 1 interested party.
Is the agent available?
Yes, I am. Good afternoon.
Yes. Did you have a chance to read the comments that were posted? Do
Yes, I sure did.
you have any questions?
Not really. I think the only question I have, which might not pertain to you guys, is that we tabled this originally, and I just noticed that there are some comments on there about a possible encroachment agreement that wasn't on the first set of comments, but I'm guessing I'll take that up with the building staff.
Okay, we have one citizen.
So please unmute yourself when you're speaking and just state your name for the record.
Have I muted? Oh, this is on. My name is Erin Stanley, and I'm their next door neighbor.
Okay, do you have any questions or concerns?
No, I'm just here in support of the application.
Great.
Yep.
Committee, any questions? Any questions? If not, make a motion. Laverne?
Move it.
Seconder Nancy, all in favor? Opposed?
Seeing none?
Motion carried, application approved.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon.
Klein.
All right, and we're all set for the next file. So we are hearing HMA 22264 for 93 Klein Avenue North in Hamilton. We have the agent registered to speak and several interested parties.
Okay, is the agent available?
Yes, we are. Good afternoon, committee. Hope you're all doing well.
Yes, did you have a chance to read the comments that were posted?
I did, and yeah, we're happy with the city's comments. Just in regards to variance 2, which is the one variance that the city was not putting their support behind. This is we actually applied for a variance for 11 meters in height on a street just around the corner, and was granted that a few years ago by this committee. So we're trying to keep that, a little bit under that, but we've already done this pretty much the exact same project in Westdale already, and so I understand that the city has to, can't throw their support behind all of it, but this is something that's already been done in the neighborhood.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll call the interested parties to the front, and when you come, just make sure that you unmute yourself and then you state your name for the record. If there's people who want to go together, if you're like same family or anything like that, you're welcome to do that as well. So I've got Jackie and Andy Patrick.
Hi, I'm Andrew Patrick. Yeah, our question and comment is basically around variance number 2 and the extra height that the house is going to take up. Previously, we attended a council meeting for another house, and the city decided that the streetscape should be the same, and our concern is that once we start allowing street houses to significantly vary the height, that you could run away and you could start getting these really tall, crazy houses. So that was our concern, that hopefully they could maintain the current height of the house without having to increase it by up to 10.8 meters.
Can I comment on that? Yes, go ahead.
You just have to.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess the only comment, the whole point of this is to try to get some extra bedrooms. Our clients have 4 kids. They want to stay in the Westdale area for obvious reasons. It's a great place to live and to raise children. So they need this third story. in order to comply, it wouldn't be a room that people could actually habitate in, because the ceilings would just be too low. So we're doing our absolute best. We kept the pitch as low as possible on the house, but yeah, it's impossible for us to meet the existing height requirements in order to get what our clients need to raise their children there.
Okay. Next.
Okay, we'll hear from the next interested party. Were those?
Did you have any more questions?
This is Jackie Patrick. I'm just wondering, because I see the proposed drawing, I know that when we dealt with this before with another house on Klein, they provided elevations and floor plan, I believe. I don't know what's required, other than the sort of significant increase in the top of the house. To me, the front looks similar, although variances in the front are very different and take up a lot more space like the house does. So I was just wondering about if that is going to be required or not.
So our variant, okay, go ahead.
I'm not sure what the question is. I'm sorry.
Do you want to repeat your question, please?
Yeah, just 2 seconds. I just supposed to right here. Just on, I guess, page 2 of 3, it says in notes that were on the notes from the city, it's unclear from the elevation drawing provided in the lower level of the principal. Like, it sort of just states that that there's only one elevation drawing, and so some of the information and the variances are hard to understand because there's just that one drawing.
Sorry, so you're looking, you would like to see the rest of the drawings?
Well, just to see drawings that reflect the position of the house on the lot, because there's a lot of variances that are mentioned on here that aren't really described anywhere other than in the on the request.
Well, I mean, like, the extent of our project is the third-story addition. We're not changing anything. We're not adding anything to the rest of the house. We just have to, because most Westdale homes are kind of existing non-conforming, we're in a position where we want to do this project, so we have to bring we have to apply for variances for other parts of the house to bring it all, so that it all works. So, but we're not adding anything to the front of the house as far as square footage or anything like that. And all we're doing is going up and putting this third story on. I'd be more than happy to meet with you guys as soon as possible to show you the rest of the plans. I have no problem doing that. And I can explain to you exactly, what the extent of the project is and what we're all doing.
I think the person, someone wants to talk that I think is directly behind the house and has other questions too, so I'll.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll hear from Helen Prosser next.
Building the existing as is.
Hi there. I'm Helen Prosser, and my husband Steve and my 2 kids, James and Maddie, live right behind this home, so on 112 Haddon Avenue North, so our backyards are back to back. In talking with my husband Steve, this is all, this is kind of way over my head, but I'm going to do my best. My first time. My husband Steve has read the information as I have as well. He's gone online, and there's just a bit of confusion. Maybe it's unclear. How much higher will the house be from its present peak?
Mr. Speaker, I would love to answer this question as I'm the designer for this project. We're increasing the height of this property from 9.5 as an existing non-conforming to 10.8. And that will be an increase of 1.3, Mr. Speaker.
So it's just an increase of a little bit over 1 foot from its
1.3 meters.
Can you, how much is that in feet, please? 3 feet. Okay. So it's going to be 3 feet higher?
You need to unmute yourself. I think your finger's hovering over the button.
Sorry, it is. So it's 3 feet higher?
1.3 meters, so that's what, roughly almost 5 feet? That's correct.
So we're talking 5 feet, 5 feet, maybe 5 feet, 5 inches higher?
That's correct.
5 feet, 5 inches higher. So my husband Steve is 6 feet. So I'm thinking, but as tall as my husband Steve. That's pretty tall. That's pretty high. Okay, thank you for that. So the neighbors are good neighbors, and I wish them well, and I hope the renovations go beautifully. We have some concerns. My first concern is, since we live right in the backyard, right, our backyards meet, how will this extra height of 5 feet 5 inches affect the sunlight in our backyard? We have a nice deck back there we use, family of 4, friends, family.
Yeah, I mean, pretty hard for me to answer that without actually being on site and seeing, like, I'm not sure where exactly the sun is setting or rising. Yeah, I mean, 5.5 feet from, what it is now is not going to make much, if any, difference as far if we're just talking about sunlight. Like it'll be next to no change as far as that goes for your backyard or where your deck is located.
Okay. Okay. Our next concern is how will this extra height affect our privacy?
Yeah. Again, I mean, right now it's 2.5 stories. There's really no change as far as privacy. Yeah, I mean, we're proposing. I mean, there's 2 windows that are going to be on the back of the addition, but currently there's a window up there now, so there's really no change, because the windows will be at the same height they are now, so the windows won't be any higher than the existing. Than what is existing now, because all we're trying to do is raise the ceilings and get rid of slope ceilings so that it can be actual bedrooms up there. But in its current condition, there is a bedroom up there with a window in almost the same location as the windows we're proposing.
Okay, I do want to say that neighbors, there's lots of greenery. It's like a forest. It's overgrown in our backyard, and the neighbors to the west of 93 Klein Avenue. So that would be 89 Klein Avenue. The gentleman has said they're going to take down a very, like an old, overgrown maple tree, right? So that's going to open things up for us and open things up for this. I'm concerned about this 3rd floor renovation. So I do want to say also, we moved into Westdale because of the character of the homes. The 2 stories, 9 meters in height. When I've seen renovations done, they've done dormers up on like we have done, added a dormer to add some more space, and that's where our son James is going to move up to our 3rd floor, or our kind of attic. I would really like to keep the character of Westdale, right? It's such a beautiful neighborhood. The homes are charming. And there is a height restriction for that reason, right? They're charming. They're smaller homes for families of possibly a smaller size. Also, I'm worried that if this renovation is approved, it's going to set a precedent. And we live in a university community, which I love, but I worry, right? I worry that we add a third story, and then woohoo, right? We've got other owners, family owners that would like to add a third story as well. And well, one's already been done, so precedent's been set. I'm concerned about that. Also, one parking space, right? One parking space. We have 1 hour parking on the side streets, right? Parking is already pretty tight. So that's also a concern. One parking space for the home. Okay, I think that's all my concerns, so thanks very much.
Thank you, and we will hear from Penny Binns next.
Yeah, it was still on, yeah. I apologize because I'm really not as prepared in presenting orally. I did send in some submission, but I believe I was after the noon time by an hour when I realized, but we are at 116 Haddon Avenue North, and we also butt onto the backyard of this property. Helen and I, it's jogged, so we both back onto the property. And at present, we look at their backyard and their 2.5-story home, which is very similar to ours, which is the 2.5-story. And what we're really losing is any sky. So we really are looking at a house that's going to block. It's not a peak that's being built, just a little higher. It's a whole box being put on. And aesthetically, the sketches and the things are beautiful. Shane does a beautiful job, and if I was getting something done, I'd get him to come. It's not that at all. And it's this lack of sky that we would see gone, and the aesthetics of Westdale. I know that you said that there was a precedent already. There was a house that's like this. I don't recall in the Westdale area, on this side of King, a house that is built like that. Can you tell me the address of that?
The one that we did a few years ago is on Barclay.
Barclay, yeah, because that's on the other side. This whole neighborhood has the same, I couldn't find another house that did not have a roof line like you typically see in Westdale. So there's that part, there's the precedent, the number of variants are quite numerous. Some of them I can certainly understand, and we all know that some of these variances are necessary. But I would really like to say that the privacy of those bedrooms upstairs, we have, as you might know, we've got cedars there, and we can't grow them much taller. And we were in Westdale, we do know we're gonna have neighbors close by. But I think really this 3 full story, which means not a peak, a box going outwards, is what I really want to make sure is clear here at this meeting. And we have a 2.5-story, and we have put on, as you might be able to look at, a very nice large dormer. And our 3rd floor would easily make 2 very nice bedrooms. So putting on 2 dormers might be a very good solution. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, and that's all the interested parties registered, Mr. Chair.
Okay, well, and I was going to comment on your last comments about the dormers. I mean, that was the recommendation from planning, was to try and implement dormers rather than a full 3rd story. Open it up for the committee for questions. Thomas.
Oops, I'll just be the bad guy again. The staff, I think, have hit the nail on the head. when they say that they find it not to be in keeping with the Westdale original subdivision cultural heritage landscape and Westdale South established historic neighborhood. Seems to me these days cultural heritage and historical neighborhoods are going out the window. But this area hasn't changed that much, and I see merit in preserving what these people have commented on, and that is the nature of the neighborhood, and that trying to keep what is there consistent with the surrounding area. I've heard a couple of different people already say that they've done things with their third floor. They didn't put on a third story, they put on dormers. And that's in fact what the staff is recommending. And I think that if you drive down that street, there's no third story buildings. They're not cookie cutter buildings because they're stately homes, but they're very, very similar, every one of them, that whole subdivision. And this thing would stick out like a sore thumb. And I'm still all for some maintaining neighborhood characters, and so I don't think I can vote to approve variance 2.
Okay, anyone else? Nancy?
Whoopsie, you got it. I understand the concerns. I understand the difference of 5 meters could mean a lot to you as regard to either your privacy or whatever. What I do see though from maybe the planners or the contractor's design is that these are not bungalows. These are 2.5-story homes, and they run down that street as 2.5 stories with the odd one in there that's a little smaller than 2.5 stories. So I don't see a huge difference in a few feet. That's just going to be an extension of a dormer, but a box. Yes, it is a box, to the lady that spoke last.
It's a box.
So I just, I don't find it a huge problem. Again, if it were bungalows, the entire street was bungalows and you're towering with 3 stories, then that could make a big difference. So I'm not concerned with this at all.
Okay, Laverne?
What I read into all of this after looking at some of the diagrams and listening to the concerns, one of the things that we're being asked here is to approve a 3rd story on this home. And I don't personally see a lot of difference between a 3rd story and sticking out a bunch of dormers on the side of it and utilizing the 1/2 story. So that is exactly what the applicant is doing, is trying to utilize a 3rd story, and we've heard that other people are doing that through the use of dormers, so I certainly don't have a problem with what they're doing. Thank you.
If I may just comment on that, all you got to do is go down and look at that street, and you'd see that a couple of dormers out the side is not the same thing as putting a whole 3rd story on the front and making it look like a box.
So I think in the variance, it may allude to the fact that it is a 3rd story that is there. It's just that they want to increase that height of that 3rd story. David?
Yeah, so reading through this, the variance is for height, and that's what we got to look at. And I don't think dormers and a 3rd story, I think they'll probably be equivalent in the same height, which I would think that it'd be very similar to the height. So I don't think dormers is the answer to this at all. So I don't have an issue with this application too. At the time, I'd make a motion.
Okay, Margaret?
I also think that I don't think that staff is as concerned about the height variance as they are about the massing. And that's where they make the comment about dormers as opposed to the full 3rd story. So it's not that they are opposed to the height increase, I believe. It's just the way it's presented. So they do make a comment in the comments that they provide us that they would prefer to see dormers to provide the floor space. So I would prefer to see this redesigned slightly. to decrease the impact of the massing of the third story. So I'm not in favor of it as it sits now. I wonder whether the applicants would like to table it to have further discussions with staff.
If I can comment to that, Mr. Speaker, like, if we change the design to put dormers on, we're still going to be back here in front of you guys asking for the same height allowance, because regardless of the look, and I mean, we tried to maintain, you know, some of the neighborhood by putting that bump out on the front, giving it a little bit of character. You know, it could have just been a box, so we did try to make sure that the front of the house and the front elevation does fit in with the rest of the homes in Westdale. The whole point is to allow them to use this room for their kids, and for them to be actual bedrooms. So we need the height to do that. That's the whole thing. So to go back to the drawing board and make it look like a dormer, knowing full well it's on the inside it's going to be the same, and we're going to still end up in front of you guys asking for this 10.8 meters again. I don't see how that. I don't know how we're being very effective here.
So the answer is no, I guess.
It just, yeah. To me, like you know, there are houses like this in the neighborhood. You know, we've done significant amount of work in Westdale. We've always you know, worked with neighbors, tried to, you know, keep our renovations you know, as Westdale-ish as we possibly can. But we're also trying to solve problems for our clients, and you know, the number one problem here is well, not a problem. They want to stay in Westdale, and they have 4 children. So to do that, they need proper height bedrooms. So this is, you know, this is the best way of doing it. Like I said, but by redesigning it to make it look like a dormer, we're still going to end up back here with the same amount of variances, asking for the same thing. And so, yeah, I just don't know how that's going to make it any better.
Okay, David,
I'd just make a motion for approval, please.
Okay.
Sorry,
Motion's been made.
can I just clarify what the motion
Okay.
is? Is the motion for approval as written or as amended per zoning?
Where's the zoning change on it? The first one.
Variance 4.
4.
That a minimum westerly side yard of 0.4 meters shall be permitted instead of the minimum required side yard of 1.06 meters was their amendment to variance 4.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so as amended per zoning.
Oh,
Nancy, second.
Second.
All in favor of that motion?
Here.
Opposed?
I have 2 opposed.
Motion carried, application approved.
thank you very much, committee. Have a great afternoon. Thank you.
All right, and we are all set for the next file. So we are hearing HMA 22265 for 8 and 10 Devonport Street in Hamilton. We have the agent and owner registered to speak and 1 interested party.
Okay, is the agent available?
You'll need to unmute yourself to speak, please.
Hear us now?
Yes. Did you have a chance to read the comments that were posted?
Yes, I had read the comments and I'm in agreement with the proposed condition.
Could you repeat that? Sorry.
Yes, I have read the comments.
She said, yes, I have read the comment.
Okay, sorry. Do you have any questions at all?
No.
Development, I think, is this the one where development engineering has a problem? Yes. Committee? Oh, sorry. One citizen?
All right, we'll hear from Heather Geddes. So you'll just need to unmute yourself to speak. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I am further down on Devonport. It's quite a small street currently with 21 homes. This application would make it 22. And on the first blush of it, I have no problem with that. However, I do have a problem with the property as it currently sits. It was taken over, the garage was demolished, the debris was never contained or picked up. It's still littered with building construction debris. One set of windows were redone, and then it sat vacant for over a year. So I put to you that it's the landowner is not a good neighbor, and I have grave concerns about all of the potential situations he's laid out for this second dwelling, in particular infringements on the other properties and the specs. So everything is open. The lands to be retained, lands to be severed, there's 12 points, but then there's quite a variety of notes with everything up in the air. So a lot of concerns that any development on this property would be put in good faith with an absentee landlord that currently for over a year has left the property in disarray with the neighbors, and the neighborhood devalued because of that. And if you've got any specific points you'd like me to discuss, it's very difficult because we don't know what the severance would look like and what the buildings would look like. There's no blueprints out for us to review currently.
Thanks.
So I guess my last comment would be I would like this proposal to be not accepted in its entirety. Thank you.
Okay. Committee, questions? Development engineering. Recommend the minor variances be denied.
I would like to table the application to resolve these concerns.
If that's the wish of the applicant, I'd like to make a motion for tabling.
Okay.
Second it.
Nancy, then Mark, all in favor? Opposed?
Seeing none?
Motion carried, application tabled.
And yes. I can understand.
All right, and we're all set for the next file. So we're hearing HMA 22239 for 118 Cope Street in Hamilton. We have the agent registered to speak and one interested party.
Okay, is the agent available?
I believe the agent may be calling in. If you are, please press *6 or *9 to unmute yourself.
Hello?
Yes, did you have a chance to read the comments that were posted?
Is this for 118 Colt Street?
Yes.
Oh, yes. I've read the comment from, I guess, one of the neighbors, yes.
Okay, do you have any questions?
No, I don't.
Committee, any questions? Margaret?
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi there, my name is Karen.
Who is this, please?
My name is Karen,
Address?
120 Cope Street.
Okay.
And I just had a couple of questions. I was unclear as to what one of the variances is. It says an eave or gutter shall be permitted to project into the entire southerly and northerly side yard, and therefore may be located as close to 0.0 meters to the side lot lines where the zoning bylaw permits a half. Does this mean that the gutters and like rainwater from the east troughs would be coming down into the sides of the house?
Is this question for me?
Yes.
It will be coming down to the side of the house, but not onto the property line.
So where will it be going? Where would it be draining to? Because we've had issues in the past of flooding in the basement. So we'd want to make sure that these are draining not between the houses, but like away from it.
Yes, okay, we can redirect the drainage to drain away from your property and onto the street.
Right. So I just want to ensure that. So is that something that gets changed then in this variance for approval? Because I'm just very concerned of rainwater coming into the basement as it has before.
Right. So it's probably the rainwater leader probably drains into a swale between your property and the one in Cove Street. And I don't know, it's probably settling. I'm not aware of any flooding around that area, but yeah, definitely if it is, if it's a concern of yours, we'll direct the rainwater leader so that it drains away from wherever it's pooling.
Absolutely, because yes, it was the draining from the gutters
From your house.
from that house beside coming into the basement. So yes, if it can be redirected, that would definitely help.
Yeah, so I'll mention that to the homeowner, and they can make that adjustment with the contractor.
Okay, thank you. And sorry, I'm just looking at this one other question. It says no on-site spaces shall be permitted instead of the 2 minimum parking spaces required. I know there's been 2 that have been recently added to the property. Is it going to be paved?
Okay, on-site parking spaces permitted instead of minimum 2. Yeah, right now, so there's no on-site parking permitted.
Okay, because there are cars parked there. There's 2 cars that have recently parked there, and there's like sort of a 1-car driveway that was added, and then it looks like another one with gravel has been added to that. So I was just wondering, is that what they're requesting on this?
Yes, I think this variance is for no parking on the property, which you're required to by law.
Okay, so they
I
don't want on-site parking?
I don't think the front driveway is long enough to accommodate like a full-size car, maybe a compact. But technically, they shouldn't be allowed to park on the front of the house.
Oh, because there are 2 cars that are parked there. So I thought they were petitioning to get these 2-car parking.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No. It says, I guess zoning is permitting 2 parking on the property, but there's just not enough room.
Okay, but like I said, there are 2 cars parked there, so.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I'll let the homeowner know that they can't park in front.
And so that's in their minor variances that they're requesting no on-site parking.
So yes,
That's
is it the
right.
homeowner that is requesting that?
Yes. That's in the list of variances in front of us today.
Oh, okay, because like I said, there are 2 cars that are parking there, so that's why I didn't quite understand that point.
I think they may still park there, but it wouldn't be legal to park there according to the bylaw.
Okay. Okay, and these other ones too, when it says, like, it looks like they're, I don't know where this added on the sides, like 0.1 and 2 here, a minimum 0.5 meters northerly side yard width and a minimum of 0.7 meters southerly side yard width shall be permitted instead of the minimum of 0.9. It sounds like they're looking for less space in their backyard. Am I reading that correctly?
Is this item number 2 that you're looking at?
1 and
Minimum
2,
set-
they're kind of
Oh,
hand in
1
hand.
and 2?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So 1 is for the side yard setback. I think what happened, like the history of this building is they applied for a permit, right? And the permit was for an addition at the back, and the addition was the same width as the house. On their site plan that they submitted with the building permit, it's sort of misleading because it says that there's a 4-foot setback already from the existing house to the side property line, which in fact, when we got the survey done, it was actually less. So we figured the existing house is grandfathered into the bylaw, and the addition would need to conform with zoning, which is a 1.2 meter setback from each side, right, of the yard, and yeah. So I guess the builder is thinking that they build this width as what the existing house is, that it would be fine, but it's not. So that's why we're asking for this variance, is to lessen the setback on the side yards.
Okay, we have some committee members that have questions at this time. Laverne?
I think we're beating this thing to death. I looked at this recommendation and it says no comment. And below that, it refers to zoning and it says a building permit is required to recognize the addition and the rear deck. And under 3, it says in order to comply was issued August the 20th of 2020, 2 years ago. So obviously there's been something done here that has triggered the 5 variances. And so somebody's found the 5 variances, and when I look through them, I think they're minor. And I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Okay, motion to approve by Laverne, seconder. Nancy, all in favor?
Here, here.
Opposed?
Seeing none.
Motion carried, application approved.
Thank you.
Okay, and we're all set for the next file. We're hearing HMA 22262 for 11 Archibald Street in Hamilton. We have the agent registered to speak and no other interested parties.
Is the agent available?
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chair. This is Matthew Frederick Hansley, the authorized agent.
Yes, did you have a chance to read the comments that were posted?
Yeah, I did. I see planning staff had no comments and recommends approval, so I'll defer to the committee for any questions.
Okay, committee?
Move it.
Moved by Mal, seconded by Nancy. All in favor?
Here, here.
Opposed?
Seeing none?
Motion carried, application approved.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members.
All right, and we're all set for the next file. So we're hearing HMA 22253 for 20 Reed Avenue et al. We have the agent registered to speak and one interested party.
Okay, is the agent available?
Yes, good afternoon, members of committee, staff, and the public. I do have a PowerPoint presentation available, but I'm not sure if we really do need it. A few highlights that I'd just like to touch on quickly. In your package, you'll see this minor variance application has received support from Councillor Marula. Not only that, you'll see the planning addendum that supports the application, as do all the departments that were circulated on the application. And what this does is really implement an official plan amendment that was just recently passed by council. So what we are doing is getting some relief on building height and density, and we're massaging the existing holding provisions just to recognize the change in the metrics. So with those belts and suspenders that the holding provision continue to prescribe and to hold, we're happy with the staff report. We're happy with the 2 conditions of approval, and it's our position the application satisfy the 4 tests, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, we have one citizen.
Hi, my name's Elaine Taylor. There's been so many changes to this development since 2018. It started off when they knocked down 120 units. They increased it to 690 units, and then 840 units, and now they're requesting 1,290, an additional 450 units. I'm going to share my camera with you on the original plans that the residents were given when they originally knocked down Roxborough Park School, because they have not presented any new plans to the residents. And we want to know where all the parking's going to be, because that's an addition of 2,580 vehicles. If you look at 2 vehicles per unit, it's an additional 5,160 people in the area if you look at a family of 4. The city does not control the rent, so how they can say this is going to be for housing, it's uncontrollable, because when the sign went up originally, the prices started at $350 for the houses. Then it went to $450, and then they just didn't list the price anymore. My concern is for the traffic problem, where all these vehicles are going to be located, and why are they being allowed constantly to change the bylaw to support additional units in an area that originally only had 120 units plus the school. There is no green space planned, and from these old plans, there's no parking planned for the additional vehicles. So boots on the ground, they've made changes, so many changes, and changed the bylaw, and an outgoing counselor who approves it, that's not right, because this guy hasn't even been around in this area since they started the development and never showed up to the residential meetings. And I know I'm the only one that's at this meeting, but there is a lot of elderly people in this area, and people have to work, and they don't have the time to argue with council. But I'm just at a point, I'm getting fed up with constant changes, and they only notify people that are 60 meters away from it. So I want an explanation on why they want to increase to 1,290 units from 840.
Thank you for coming out today, and if I may, through the chair, respond with a few comments. I can appreciate the, occasionally we call it engagement fatigue. We have been at this site for quite a while. I do appreciate there has been a number of iterations of the evolving plan. What I can tell you in terms of what's next, there will be no further refinement of the plan. This change today reflects the 5th and final phase. So all the earlier phases, phase 1 is the city housing project. Phase 2 is the townhouses and back-to-backs. Phase 3 is a market control rental building. And then this is the final phase. So you won't receive further notice. In terms of how this was considered and what are the impacts, well, yes, we do know that Councillor Marula supports this specific application. He came on the record, but it's not entirely fair that to just cast it as an outgoing councillor, because it was only this past July where the corresponding official plan amendment went forward. And in that official plan amendment, we got a unanimous support from the entirety of Planning Committee and Council. And that specific official plan amendment specifically quotes that the implementation of that amendment will be through a minor variance application. So today we really are delivering the implementation tool to what was considered by Council in July.
And why wasn't the residents of this area notified of it? Because all we got was a thing in our mailbox saying, okay, here's the changes. They don't even put the changes up on the board near the property. You've had an accident at that apartment building. There's no promised green space, and you still haven't answered the question about traffic and parking for these additional units.
Thank you. So I was trying to get to the final points that you've raised. So, in terms of notice, the more comprehensive notice was given for the official plan amendment, where it was 120 meters in keeping with the Planning Act, slightly smaller on this minor variance scale where we're down to 60. But notice was completed in the normal prescribed fashion. In terms of amenity space, green space on site, again, that was comprehensively dealt with through the plan of subdivision. We're not actually changing anything through this individual application. Again, we're just adding density, so we're adding height to the two buildings of the final phase. So that doesn't really alter that planned green space. And we do have the holding provision. And for those that don't understand holding provisions entirely, what this does is allow for the density to be approved in principle, where we would then go forward with our site plan applications for the specific details with the additional supporting rationale that will lead to the removal of the holding provision. So it's sort of like an extra level of control in the process. But it was important to set the stage and allow the density to be approved through the variance. So then we could then make the commitment on the site plan application to bring all those details forward. So,
okay, but this is the site plan they showed us. These are the apartment buildings that you're talking about right here in the orange. Originally, these apartment buildings were going to be 6, 8, and 6. Now you've built a 10-story one. And what are the size of the other two going to be now? That haven't been built yet.
So
that's what you're saying. You're going to crowd all those people, 450 units into 2 apartment buildings. So you're saying they're Hamilton housing. So you're going to say you want to create a ghetto here, because the building that's built doesn't even have any balconies. And it doesn't look like you're going to do the promised green space here, because you're going to make it higher, and that's the Red Hill Creek. Sorry if you can't see that. I had it down too low. But
I am familiar with that plan, and the proposed building heights are 16 and 18 stories.
So
and again,
16
it's
and 18 stories now.
Sorry, if you can please allow the agent to respond, you will be muted.
Okay.
Thank you. I lost my train of thought. So I guess my point that I'd like to stress to the committee members is that, yes, we're seeking relief on height and the units per hectare, but it's not carte blanche. It comes with that holding provision that exists that requires urban design. It requires the technical analysis to support it, but it's just changing that bar to allow us to then get into that conversation. So there's still a very high level of control that's in place through the use of that holding provision. And with that holding provision, I'd like to think that the concerns by the area resident will be addressed through the detailed review by staff as we propose to lift that holding provision when we've provided the technical studies to do so.
Okay, the questions I've got, just to
I think we've had enough debate on
I just want to clarify, and I should have the right to clarify since I live in this area.
So if you can please provide your final comments, these will be your final comments, and then the chair has asked that the committee members respond.
Okay, because now you're saying instead of 6 to 8 stories, you're doing a 16-story, 1-6? That's my question. How high is this building going to be now?
Okay, thank you for your comments.
In my closing response to the specific question, we're talking 64 and 48 meters, which translates to 16 and 18 stories. Thank you.
Okay, committee, questions? There is a holding provision on variance 2 and 4, is that right, Matt?
That's correct. So that exists. The holding provision exists, but it does have metrics that need to change to reflect the application.
So can I ask what the holding provision
sorry,
is?
your time to speak has been done. It is the committee members who are have been asked for questions or comments.
Okay, Margaret?
Just a clarification. I understand that the official plan amendment has been approved. It was approved for the increased height. At the time that you did the official plan amendment, was there a rezoning as well?
Through the chair, no. The official plan was done and crafted in a way that actually, as I mentioned, includes specific language to state that a minor variance will be the implementation tool. So policy number 411A2F of the official plan that was approved earlier this year specifically states a modification to the zoning bylaw shall be considered minor and implementable through a minor variance for any development for a building height greater than 12 stories but not more than 18, and or that results in a net residential density of 165 units per hectare but not more than 254. So that line in the amendment that was passed this summer was the what was specific language and the prelude to this minor variance application being finalized.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone else? Motion? Margaret?
Yes. Motion for approval.
Okay. Seconder?
I second.
Okay, Mark? All in favor? Opposed?
Seeing none?
Motion carried, application approved.
Thank you.
Okay, we're all set for the next file. We're hearing HMA 22263 for 58 Barton Street West. We have the agent registered to speak and no other interested parties.
Is the agent available?
Yes, I'm here. Bill Curran from CGS Architects. The owner is also here as well. There was an error on the agenda listing me as the owner of the property.
Do you have a chance to read the comments that were posted?
Yes, we have, and we've got one a minor amendment. The zoning reviewer picked up on one omission. The existing landscaped area in the front yard is 0%, and we'd like that to remain. if you don't mind. It is a note if you did a drive-by that there is landscaping between the original porch line and the sidewalk, and that would also be existing to remain. But we'd like to have an item added to keep the existing landscaped area in the front yard as 0%.
Okay. Committee, any questions? Margaret?
Just a clarification. Is the porch in the rear or is it in the front?
There is an existing porch in the front that we are replacing that currently has been removed. And there is an existing porch in the rear, but I believe there's some messed up language in the document.
That's what I was wondering. So should the purpose read that it's to permit a porch in the front yard?
Yes. That's what the drawing shows. We're replacing the existing porch in the front yard. There is an existing porch in the northeast corner of the building that would remain as well.
Anyone else have questions? Mel?
Move it.
Moved by Mel, seconded.
Sorry, can I clarify, was that moved as amended, or was that moved as written on the variance notice?
As amended.
As amended, so that was modifying variance 1 to read a front yard setback. And an additional variance that the existing landscaped area is permitted to be maintained, or that 0% landscaping is permitted?
Existing retained.
Existing, okay.
Seconder? Laverne, all in favor?
Here, here.
Opposed?
Seeing none?
Motion carried, application approved.
Thank you, committee and staff.
All right, and we're all set for the next file. So we're hearing HMA 22267 for 395 Queen Street South in Hamilton. We have the agent registered to speak and no other interested parties.
Okay, is the agent available?
Yes, I am Devin from Land Art.
Yes, did you have a chance to read the comments that were posted?
I did, yes.
And do you have any questions?
Nope.
Committee? Moved by Laverne, seconded by Nancy. All in favor?
Here, here.
Opposed?
Seeing none?
Motion carried, application approved.
Thank you very much.
We're all set for the next file, so we're hearing HMA 22268 for 100 Charlton Avenue West in Hamilton. We have the agent registered to speak, no other interested parties. The agent has requested to speak first.
Okay, is the agent available?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Then let me help speed things along this afternoon. We're going to request a tabling of this application so that we can collect a more updated and accurate plan of survey for the property. So we respectfully request that we table this until further notice, and then we'll work with your staff to ensure that proper notice is given when we're ready to resume.
Great, motion for table.
Motion by Nancy, seconded by Laverne. All in favor?
Here, here.
Opposed?
Seeing none?
Motion carried, application tabled.
Thank you very much.
Right, and we are all set for the next file. We are hearing HMA 22190 for 330 Dundurn Street South in Hamilton. We have the agent registered to speak and several interested parties.
Okay, is the agent available?
Yes, Ryan Hicks with SRM Architects.
Yes, did you have a chance to read the comments that were posted?
I did, thank you, yes.
Okay, do you have any questions?
No, I do not.
Okay, we have some interested parties.
Yeah, so I will call the people in the order that we have them registered. Then when it is their time, if they are in person, they can come forward to the microphone and unmute themselves. So we have Tanya Krakovic registered to speak. Okay, I do not currently see them on the call. We will move on to the next person. So we have Lauren Graydon registered to speak.
Hi there, my name is Lauren Graydon. I live on Homewood Avenue behind the proposed building. My main concern is the parking. This neighborhood is already very, very dense with very limited parking, especially during school hours. And they've already cut down, you can't even stop anywhere around the school anymore. So there's a lot of challenges, and my driveway gets parked over almost daily just for school drop off. And I'm really concerned about how parking is going to affect this neighborhood. I think we could even lose green space with more people wanting to turn their front driveways into parking spaces rather than having the green space. There are still quite a few houses that don't have that. So I am concerned about that, as well as the shadow study that was presented. With it now being a higher building, I think the shadow study is going to be very different from the reality of what this building is going to be, especially since it's now going to be significantly closer to all the property lines. And there's also a gentleman there, Jason, who's going into much greater detail, and I support everything he says. So whatever he says, I would also like to vouch for, but I did just want to come in person, or come and actually speak and say I'm very concerned about the parking in the area.
Okay, thank you for your comments. We will now hear from Jason Gerard.
Hi there, thank you. My name is Jason Gerard. I'm at 237 Homewood Ave. My property abuts the proposed development on its northern property. As Lauren alluded to, I'm here to represent a group of concerned neighbors. We have potentially 10, 11, 12 even that have all sent emails similar to, as Lauren is saying, kind of putting their support with some of my concerns and some of the things that I've raised. So I'd like to get into, I guess I can address all of the variances individually, and I'd like to kind of state my concerns. I do have concerns with the technical bits of the variances, as well as some of the, I'll call them clerical bits of the application and the translation of the application into the notice of the public meeting, and what the actual variances are before the committee here. So,
just one question to the chairman. We have those notes from this particular person. I just wonder if we need to hear it in piece by piece.
I can try to be brief and very, very concise. Basically, there are a number of variances being requested here. Maximum building height of, and I feel like the variance write-up is incorrect. The architect's drawings clearly show that the proposed maximum building height is 28 meters, whereas the bylaw only permits 18. So this is a 55% increase in what the bylaw is already currently allowing, which is definitely, by all accounts, not minor in nature, and would not meet the tests of a minor variance right there. So we would definitely be looking for the developer to redesign and lower the building height and come more in conformity with the zoning bylaw. There are concerns with the side yard, both side yard setbacks, which are the north and the south, as well as the west setback, which is the rear of the property. All of these are being requested to be less than what the zoning bylaw permits. I feel that some of the numbers there are also misrepresented. For example, along the west-south bylaw, excuse me, the south property line, if the building is indeed 28 meters, the zoning metrics would require a setback of 16 meters, whereas I believe the architect's letter only referenced 9.2. But those are some of the clerical errors that I was finding in the translation of the application. into the notice here and what the drawings even reflect that differ from the application itself. And finally, as Lauren alluded to, and as others are also very concerned, parking is a major issue in our neighborhood. You know, we have small one-way streets that are very congested. We have parking on one side, which is always very full with current neighbors and visitors to our neighborhood that already park there. The development is asking for a reduction of parking spaces for the condo as well as for the retirement home. I don't want to take the committee's time to go through my notes to find the numbers, but the zoning metrics already provide for a relief for parking of about 0.3 spaces for smaller apartments that are less than 50 square meters. This development has, I believe, 38 of those smaller apartments. And so right there's already a reduction built into the zoning bylaw to permit fewer spaces for these smaller apartments. So that we feel that the additional request of a further reduction is just going to add undue load on our already busy streets. As Lauren mentioned, things get crazy during school times. People are dropping off. We have our driveways blocked all the time. There's already people in the neighborhood. Several people have emailed about not being able to find street parking as is. And so this development not providing enough parking, not only just for the condos themselves, but also for any visitors that might be visiting, it's just too much for our area to take. So I guess for all of the variances being requested, we feel that they're not minor in nature. They don't meet the tests of the Planning Act, and we're asking for the developer to redesign, lower the height, and make the parking conform closer to the bylaw. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. We will now hear from John and Yale DeMarco.
Hello.
Please state your name for the record.
John DeMarco, 231 Homewood Avenue. My wife is not here, so I'm here on her behalf. So I just have a few items. One is the number of units versus the number of parking spots. That's, like Jason was saying, that's a major concern. We have a school right across the street from our house. It's Earl Kitchener. I know that parents have to drop off their kids, but they block my driveway every day and I can't get out. My wife can't get out, we have to wait. And what I'm worried about is we just wait for, I guess, those cars to move, and it takes time, and then my daughter's late for school. But I have a feeling with these new condos and with limited parking spaces, it's gonna get worse. I'm trying to figure out where everyone else is gonna park if you only have a limited parking spots. Are they gonna block our driveways? The parking is very dense. If you go to Monday morning, if you go to, I invite all of you to go to Dunder and Aberdeen on Monday morning, and they've put up a lot of, you can't turn right on red anymore. My wife has to wait 3 or 4 times before the light turns red again, at least 3 or 4 times before she can turn. So maybe do that Monday morning, go there and you can check for yourself if you wish. My other concern is the foundation. They put condos up at the corner of Dunder and Aberdeen several years ago, I think it was about 8 years ago, and some of the neighbors in the area had foundation cracks from all the pounding because they had to do underground parking. So I'm worried about that, the foundation itself. I would like to stay within the zoning. I know they've been approved for 6-story. I'm hoping they stay within the story of the zoning and not go to 8. Simply because of the density of the parking, the congestion, and that's a major concern. I'm just trying to figure out where everyone's going to park. I know they're trying to say that people are going to take public transit, but I just don't see it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. And we have Yo Gerard registered to speak as well. No, you don't wish to speak? Okay, thank you. That is all the interested parties who wish to speak, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, committee. Questions? I mean, that's the bylaws that are in place and the zonings that are in place. If everyone followed it to the T, we wouldn't have a job. That's what we're here for. We're the committee of adjustment. And so if they don't fit the cookie cutter criteria, then they can apply under the minor variances for these issues. And planning makes a decision as if they're minor or not. And then it's up to us to, as a committee, to agree whether they're minor or whether they're not. We take all the comments from planning, and we generally follow planning, but not 100% of the time. And I just put that out there that that is one of our purposes of this committee. And so, do the committee members have any questions on the list of minor variances that are in front of us? Margaret?
Yes, one of the things that came up, this is to the applicant, variance number 1 does state that you're looking for a variance for a height of 21 meters, but the drawings do mention 28 meters. Is this actually a revision to variance 1?
Through the chair, I guess I can speak to this, and I see there is planning staff if they wish to speak to how the bylaw is written. The way that the specific zoning bylaw for this property reads is there is a maximum building height. You are permitted to exceed that, provided the setbacks increase corresponding to the increase in building height. And so on the north of the property where we abut single-family homes, the 6-story portion of the building is at the 21-meter mark, and then the building begins to step back. So as the bylaw is written, the maximum building height is 21 meters, and then as we exceed that, the building steps back to be in an effort to be sensitive to those single-family homes.
So is the 28 meters for the stepped back portion, is that an as of right permission that you don't need a variance to go to 28 meters?
Not on the north facade, it is as of right by virtue of as we go up, we step back. On the south and on the west, that will be 28 meters, and it speaks to that, I believe, in item number, it's item number 6. So it goes on to say no increase to those setbacks required as building height exceeds 18 meters.
Okay.
When I look through this thing, through this application, the first 3 pages pretty well cover what the applicant is asking for. And then I see 8 or 9 letters of concern from neighbors. And it kind of draws your attention closer and closer to it when you see this attention from the neighbors, because they might have some genuine concerns here. And I'm not saying that they don't have genuine concerns. All of them probably feel that this is the most important concern that they have and they've brought forward. And I think a lot of concerns that I've heard here should be addressed. And I think some answers should be provided to the people who've asked the questions and sent the letters of concern in. And right now, I'm sort of leaning with the concerned residents. I personally couldn't approve it as it stands. Thank you.
Back to the applicant. What you've heard and what you've just heard again from my colleague here with the number of concerned residents, I would like to hear your response to that. I mean, I don't really have a problem. I do have a problem with the parking. I happen to work 2 doors down. So I know it took me 30 minutes to get a parking spot yesterday, and I did not block anyone's driveway. So yes, there is a problem there. I don't have a problem with a building that doesn't provide parking for every unit. It's very common. We're looking towards a less trafficy area. I get it. The school doesn't make it any easier. I understand that as well. So that isn't the concern. It's just the number of people on that street going down Homeward, they're going to be blocked by that. Now, I know with that seniors residence, Amenity Gardens, they never utilize their full parking. They never have. We used to use that as overflow parking for our office. But now that that parking lot will be eaten up, it's going to make it even tighter for there. So if you wouldn't mind addressing like the 7 or 8 concerns that have come through from the residents, I think that would help Laverne as well.
Sure. So I think so. The majority of those relate to setbacks, right? And the first few relate to that north facade as it steps back as the building moves up. The other setbacks, I guess they do not back on or front onto single family homes, and so a different approach was taken there with respect to the height. So I guess I empathize with the comments received. I think a lot of the comments are perhaps, as Mr. Gerard pointed out, a bit of clerical clarification possibly, but to deem them as a minor, again, that's obviously the planning department does their review of the items, and to their discretion determine if these are deemed minor or not. So I can't really speak to how they come to that conclusion. I can speak to how the setbacks work and how the zoning reads. And again, just to reiterate, we have been sensitive to the single family homes to the north, and that's why the building design is as it is, to mitigate the overlook that they will experience as well as shadows.
I've just got one question. Have you ever sat down with the neighbors and gone over this in a meeting?
I haven't personally. I know there was, and I'm sort of new to this file over the last 4 or 5 months, but I understand there was a public meeting or a neighborhood meeting with the owner present, and and Mr. Gerard can clarify this. I believe he was present at that and did speak with the developer and discuss some of these items.
I asked the neighbors if they ever had a meeting.
They did have a meeting. I believe it was last November. At the time, the application file was already in site plan approval. I understand that it was, I believe, their second or third revision in the site plan approval process. So, I mean, obviously, the design was already finalized from the developer's perspective. I understand the site plan approval process and the minor variance process, and I know that, I mean, I did state my concern at the time about the height. I was also asking about stormwater management because there's a current stormwater management pond on the site, and so I was asking about some of those things. I was also in contact with IBI, the group, the planning company. So I was asking that. I did mention that I was going to be objecting to the building height. I hadn't really spoken with other residents about the parking, but I mean, at the time when they did present the file, as I say, it was already well underway in site plan approval. The design had already been finalized. Again, knowing the process, I know that developer would not have been willing to, redesign at that time when they're already kind of proceeding through site plan approval. And I believe they were already getting to conditional approval or approval in principle. So the train was already rolling. There was nothing to stop them other than this minor variance process, and I don't think my voice would have been heard at the time the way that it could be heard now.
To the planner there, do you have any elevation drawings present there that you could share or at all? Drawings, elevations?
Sorry, is that directed at me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Would you like to see those right now?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm able to share those. Okay. Can everyone see that? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So this is maybe the most telling one here in the bottom corner. This is the east, and so this is the north setback, as I spoke about, where it does step as the building grows in height. So that's I would say that's the first comment items 2, 3, and 4 in the application. And then so this would be the west facade up here in the corner, and then south here this faces Aberdeen. And then this faces to the north. This portion here is down towards Aberdeen, so it's sort of off in the distance. So this elevation here, if I may, this is the elevation that will be predominantly visible from the north.
If you're going to be speaking, you need to make sure that you're...
I just want to make sure you have a chance to view these.
I haven't actually seen the elevation drawings. I have seen some of the 3D renders that they had in their information meeting. The planner sent me that file, so I have seen those, but not quite that, and with no measurements on the renderings, and yeah, so I mean, I wouldn't have been able to determine. That was actually some of my comments with respect to the setbacks at the south and the west. Are that at that point the building is 28 meters tall, and I understand that the zoning bylaw has the requirement or the permission to be able to increase the building height with setbacks, but it's kind of a circular reference, because on one hand you'd be able to have a taller building if you provide the setbacks, and that may be true on the north side where they are stepping the building back, but on the south and the west side they're not stepping the building back, and the building is a full 28 meters. But instead of requesting a variance for a 28 meter building versus 18 meters, which is 10 meters more, 55%, that's massive. Instead of doing that, the bylaw, they could wind up asking for a variance from the setback, because the setback and the building height are linked. And if they got a variance for the setback, then it would almost be a free card to kind of change the building height. But there's a separate sentence in the zoning bylaw that respects the building height, because you're not providing the setbacks on all of the property boundaries, then you really don't meet the test of permitting additional building height because you're providing the setbacks. The setbacks just aren't being provided.
So I just have a question. First of all, are you doing this work on behalf of Homestead or just using their letterhead?
I wasn't using any of their letterhead. I used my email.
No, there's a whole banner on there.
Oh, okay. It's just my email address.
I know people that work at Homestead, and I just didn't know if they were involved for something.
They are definitely not involved.
Okay.
My opinion does not represent Homestead in any way. I'm sorry. And I realized that, and I decided to start to switch to my Gmail for the second one there. But no, it has absolutely nothing to do with Homestead. No.
So besides all of the other stuff, what would make you guys happy? I mean, within reason. It's not going to go back to what it was. We try, and in vain, as the chairman suggested, we don't go one way or the other. We're all trying to make it come together. So, I mean, it's not going to come down to what you want it to, but it's going to. There might be something in the middle that works.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I think that. I think the height is a concern, and the parking is the biggest concern. The parking is flat out easily the biggest concern. The height is a concern, yes, to those of us who, I mean, there's 7 of us that have all kind of emailed that all abut the property on its northern boundary. So yes, we're all concerned about the height. And you know, I guess if they're asking for a 3-meter increase on the 18 meters of the lowest portion along that boundary, and then in addition with the step backs, that is what it is. But I know that there's a smaller kind of apartment building on Aberdeen that, the building is going to be 5.5 meters, I think, from that, and it's going to be 28 meters tall at that point, and it's. Sorry? The little brown ones that are just on, I think they're 450, 452, something like that, addresses on Aberdeen. Yeah. So I mean, the 28 meter tall building is going to be coming right, within 20 feet of their property line, and they only have a small parking area behind their building, between them, the building and the property line. So, I mean, this new building is going to be quite tall and really kind of blocking any sort of sky that a lot of those tenants already currently have. So, I think ultimately we are looking for something shorter. Maybe it's not realistic for me to try to get 18 meters because I understand how the developers go, and I appreciate intensification inside the city. I've looked at that parking lot for a long time and thought that would be a great spot for a building, for an infill, and I think it does make sense. I think that some of the setback concerns would be a little bit easier if the building was shorter. I think that a shorter building would also reduce the number of units, which would then also maybe help with the parking calculations. But I also know that all of the residents are against any sort of reduction to the parking, especially because the zoning bylaw already incorporates 0.3 spaces for apartments that are less than 50 square meters, and this development is utilizing that part of the zoning bylaw to already provide fewer parking spaces. So for those 38 units, there's only I guess 13 spaces, or there are 30 units and there are 11 spaces. But I mean, 30 some odd units and there's only 11 parking spaces, and that's just for the residents there. So I know that all of our neighbors would be very much against and always opposed to parking reductions. Thank you.
Before I finish, just on that, it's not unusual, and I got to say that 1,000 times. We get applications in here every single meeting where there's less parking than there are units. And I always say, when I go to apply for a unit and put my name in to take an application for rent, I know that day whether I'm getting parking or not, and I can choose not to live there if parking is a priority for me. But I do understand that you're concerned about the overflow.
I've listened to this go back and forth for the last several minutes, and I've also heard my colleague ask, what would you be happy with? We've also heard that there was a meeting last November, and a meeting last November would almost give a person 10 months to digest some of the things that were said at that meeting. And if there is a resolution or something that happens to meet a happy medium here, and both parties were willing to give a little bit, then I think we could bring this back to the table here and find a favorable resolution. And on that note, and it's only a recommendation, I would make a recommendation that the applicant and the concerned parties get together one more time. It's 10 months after the original meeting, and I'm sure there's a lot of things that have come up in their minds, in the concerned parties' minds, and they should be allowed time, given some of the concerns that are here, they should be given some time to find a resolution here. And if we make a decision on it, it's binding. And if we turn this down, it's not what the applicant's going to want to hear. And if we're in favor, it's exactly what the applicant wants, and it goes against the concerned parties. And I'm almost at the point where I'm ready to make a motion to table this thing and let them see if they can find some sort of a resolve. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
So I guess on those comments to the applicant, would you consider a tabling motion, or do you want a decision today?
Well, I guess, obviously we come into these looking for a favorable decision, but it's based on some of the comments received from council. I think it's probably in everyone's interest to try to mediate this a little bit more. Yeah, I guess that would be my position.
Okay, so you would accept a motion for table?
Well, I guess the question, if the ruling comes down, it's not in favor. Are we just in the same situation where, we'd obviously the terms of this application aren't approved, but it would then mean essentially going through that same process?
Sorry, so the committee can't give you what their decision would be if they vote?
Well, I understand that.
You're asking, so what they're asking is if you want to table this, or do you want them to vote one way or the other on a decision on the items before them?
Yeah, so I guess I'm just asking for a little bit of technical clarification on if there is a ruling and it opposes this application. I'd assume we are then able to resubmit another application with different terms.
Or appeal it and try to get it through an appeal.
Yeah, so Committee of Adjustment decisions are appealable within 20 days from the date of a decision for a minor variance, or an additional application could be submitted at a later time as well.
Okay.
Well, and there's nothing that prevents the submission of a new project or new plans. If this one doesn't fly, they could go back to the drawing board, rewrite them, and try again that way.
They just have to reapply.
Reapply. With the fees and
if it's denied.
With the fees and whatever.
So we'll put the question to you again. Do you want to table the application, or do you want a decision by the committee members?
I think we'd like a decision by the committee members.
Okay. Someone like to make a motion? Thomas?
I move that be denied. I have serious
Sorry,
concerns.
can you just turn your microphone?
Keep doing that. I move that it be denied. I have serious concerns about the parking. It's not just the fact that there's not one parking per unit. There's not enough parking spaces as required by the bylaw. That's a different thing. And the neighborhood itself is a nightmare. I know that for a fact for parking. So it's the parking, the height and whatever. I wouldn't be concerned about, but the parking I am. So I suppose as far as I'm concerned, I'm happy to approve all of the variances except 7 and 8.
Okay, sorry.
Which are the parking variances?
Sorry, so what's your motion? Is your motion to deny, or is your motion to approve?
My motion is deny 7 and 8 and approve the rest. I could do that, can I not?
Okay, yep, I just needed to clarify because you originally said deny. Okay, so deny 7 and 8 and approve all other variances as listed on the notice.
Okay, before I ask for seconder, Margaret has a question.
I had a procedural question. Can we, as a committee, decide to table, even if the applicant is in favor of a decision?
Yes, that is the committee's right. They can make any decision. I will, however, note that there is a motion on the floor currently.
Well, I'm prepared to withdraw my motion if somebody wants to move a motion.
Sorry, you just need to...
Keep doing that, don't I? I'm prepared to withdraw my motion if somebody's prepared to make a motion to table.
Okay, well, you withdraw your motion and then I'll ask.
All right. I can always bring it back, can't I?
You can.
Yes, I withdraw my motion.
Okay. Floor is open again for a motion.
I'm putting forward a motion to table the application, subject to can I put a condition that they contact the residents for consultation?
You can make a request to the applicants that they do that.
Okay, Seconder. Mel, all in favor of table? Opposed?
Seeing none.
Motion is carried, application is tabled.
And I suspect that you guys have contact information, is that correct, to the applicant?
Yes, I have Jason's email address.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah, we can be in touch. Perhaps, anyways, yes, we will, if we do need contact information, we can go through planning.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That was the last item on the agenda, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, motion for adjournment?
Mel? Meeting is adjourned.
I gotta go, guys.